Hey everybody, it's Allie, and welcome to our Y&R chat for Sunday, March 31st, 2013. Where we last left off was the longest cliffhanger in the history of ever. We had to go from Wednesday all the way till Monday to find out what happened to Adam. He had jumped in front of the bullet that was meant for Victor, and call me, maybe I'm cynical, but I was half expecting Adam to have gotten shot in like the arm or the toe or something non-life threatening, but no, Adam was shot in the back. The bullet did damage to his lungs, his ribs. He is in serious condition, bleeding to death on the new ranch floor. How horrific of a wedding day for Nikki and Victor. Victor is standing over Adam, or sitting kind of, Adam had knocked Victor out of the way, and Victor sort of rolled up and over and was shaking Adam. Son, are you okay? And it becomes obvious right away that he's not okay. Victor kicks into concerned parent must save a life mode, and he is trying to save Adam. I mean, he is like getting wedding table napkins and using it to try to stop his son's bleeding. What a just poignantly terrible moment. His wedding napkins. I don't know why that just that was what stuck out to me, like, oh no. But the most important thing is that Victor knew that that bullet was meant for him. Adam just saved his life, and he can't let him die. And the shooter is all tied up. Like, thank goodness Alex was there. He was able to apprehend the guy and call Paul, and the paramedics are on the way. But the big question is, what just happened here? Why did this just happen? And the shooter guy is acting all cocky. I mean, everybody's devastated about what's happening, and the shooter guy is just sitting there kind of being all cocky because he knows that there's a bomb in the boiler room and that he's about to die. He's going to get blown up with the rest of him. So he's sort of saying these mystical things. He's at this point where he's just accepting his fate. And Alex and Billy and Nick, they're all sort of trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Like, is there a larger plan here? What's going on? This guy is acting weird beyond what even weird. And suddenly Billy starts to smell gas, and he goes in search of where the gas shutoff would be. They all kind of figure out that, oh my gosh, he was gonna also gas us to death. They don't know, of course, the extent of what the plan was going to be, but Billy goes and he tries to find where they can shut off the gas. Everyone is freaking out, trying to get out of the house, get the kids out of the house, get Victoria out of the house, get Nikki out of the house. Nikki will not leave, and Victor will not leave his son, who's dying on the floor, even if it means that I mean, the tiniest spark could set this house ablaze, let alone the bomb that's sitting next to it, which I guess the guy planted the bomb, then set off the gas so that just to double make sure that these people were dead, so that the explosion was as large as possible. And Victor does not care. He doesn't care if he's gonna blow up. He just knows that he needs to be there with his son. Well, finally, Billy bumbles upon where the gas shutoff is. He walks into the room, you know, he covers his mouth right away. He can smell this gas, but then he looks down and sees the bomb timer counting down with less than a minute left. There's no time to even do anything. There's not enough time to run. My instinct would be to run in the other direction as fast as I could, but he knows he's not going to be able to get everybody out of the house in time, so they're all gonna die anyway at this point. So there's really only one thing he can do. He just reaches around into a drawer next to the water heater or whatever it was, and he grabs a pair of pliers and just says, screw it, and he just clips a wire. Doesn't know if it's a good wire or a bad wire, but he just clips the wire, and the bomb timer stops. It got down to just having a couple of seconds left, so that was very terrifying, but Billy saved the day. I'm very glad for him. Billy was a hero among heroes in that moment. Billy was like a hero in the only way that Billy can ever really be a hero, by circumstance, happenstance even, but that part of the day is saved. For now, things are starting to calm down. The paramedics take Adam away, the house is aired out, people can start to come back in, but the question is just looming. Who is the shooter guy? Who's he connected to? Alex and Paul is now arrived on the scene, and they decide that they're going to start questioning the shooter guy rather than bringing him back to the station and questioning him at the station. They bring this guy back into the living room of the ranch, which is so inappropriate. Bringing the shooter back into the victim's house to question him? Bad idea. Victor walks in, and he's very, very unhappy. He wants to know who the hell sent you. Why did you want to kill me? Who's paying you? You're just he knows right away that this guy is just a pawn, and Victor is enraged. Do you know that my son is dying? So he lunges at the guy like he wants to beat him down, and it was completely hilarious because Alex was standing in the way of Victor getting to the shooter, and Victor flung Alex out of the way like he was a fly on his arm, because Alex is this kind of little guy. I'm sure he's buff for his body type, but then Victor is this big boxer guy, and he just wham, like Alex went kind of flying back, and Victor punches the shooter as he's asking him questions, and they're able to break up the fight because Victor knows this guy is not the real issue here. There's a larger issue that needs to be figured out, and for crying out loud, Adam needs to be his priority. His son just saved his life, and he needs to go to the hospital to be with him, which is what he did. So Adam is in surgery. They need to, or he's getting ready to go into surgery. They need to remove the billet. They need to stop the bleeding. They need to do any repair that they can do. He's in critical condition here. He might die. So Victor is at the waiting room with Nikki, just kind of waiting for the surgery to happen. And you can read it on Victor's face. He is stunned, beyond even the normal, I can't believe this just happened stunned, but I think more so it's running through his mind, why would Adam do this? Why would Adam save me? And how does this affect our relationship if he lives? What if he doesn't live? What does that mean? So there's, I think, a million thoughts probably swirling around in Victor's head. Nikki is right there beside him. What an end to the wedding of the decade. Nikki is still looking beautiful, but absolutely torn apart, standing there in her perfect white wedding gown in a hospital, while Victor sits beside her the entire time with blood-stained hands, the blood of his son staining his hands. Noah left the wedding and went back to Nick's house, where he had sexy sex with Adriana on his dad's living room couch. Ew! Go to your bedroom at least. No one wants to sit on your sex couch now. Plus, Nick has probably had sex with at least 3 different women on that couch at least 100 times. So I don't know why you'd even want to do it where your dad's probably done it. Yucky! But Sharon stops by after, I think she wanted to get something for Faith, and she spots Adriana's panties laying on the couch. She just sees them right out of the corner of her eye, and she confronts Noah about it. There was actually such a funny, just such a cute moment where Sharon takes a pen and picks up the panties off of the couch and dangles them in front of Noah, saying, "Ooh, I know what you have done, child." It was funny. But of course, she had to also warn him about getting involved with Adriana, which he knows. He knows it's a bad idea, but he's doing it anyway. And it was really ironic that Sharon is telling Noah not to get involved with someone who's bad news, as Noah brings up, this is coming from the woman who fell in love with Adam Newman. I don't think you have any room to talk to me now, Mom. But that was just the beginning of Sharon's concerns for the night, because Nick comes home and he has no choice but to tell Sharon what has just happened to Adam. She, I think, doesn't ask questions. She's like stumbling around. She just runs out the door to the hospital. She's completely distraught. She gets there, sees Victor and Nikki. She's wondering what happened. How could this possibly have happened? Adam could die. And she gets there just as they're getting ready to wheel him into surgery. And there was a beautiful moment where he's getting ready to go off to surgery and she catches him on the gurney and she just gives him a kiss. And it was so meaningful. I love Sharon and Adam, and I'm so glad that she has been there for him, that she's the one that's there for him during this horrible ordeal. But the thing that really surprised me, and as much as it also irritated me too, I appreciated that Sharon called Chelsea. Chelsea's his wife. Still, technically, she deserves to know. So I thought that was very big of Sharon to invite Chelsea in. I mean, just that she would even think about that Sharon's not trying to keep them apart, I think is what it says. Sharon it's not just talk. She's been trying to convince Adam to go back to Chelsea for months now, but it's not just talk. When push comes to shove, she really is kind of trying to help do what she thinks Adam might need. So she calls Chelsea, very interesting choice, and Chelsea shows up, and I wanted to smack Chelsea. I know that not everybody is going to feel that way, but Chelsea immediately starts launching into Victor. Adam did this to save Victor's life? Well, doesn't that make you feel horrible, Victor? It was pretty much her saying, Victor, you're a horrible person, and Adam, he's just a poor boy. Nobody loves him. Which is this sing-song dance that it just really isn't true. And not to mention the hypocrisy. Her acting like Victor has done all of these horribly wrong things to Adam, when, sorry lady, this is coming from someone who is pregnant with his child and doesn't want to tell him about it, and not only that, but is going to go to the lengths of trying to dupe another man into thinking that he's the father? I don't think she has any leg to stand on to be casting stones. Plus, she's all talking about how Adam got Newman Enterprises in the first place so that he could be close to Victor. Not quite. I don't think that Chelsea knows her husband at all. If Chelsea thinks that Adam is just this innocent, poor son who only wants daddy's love, that's not the whole story. That is Adam's side of the story. Chelsea has only been privy to Adam's vision of the story. And I'm not saying that Victor is perfect by any means. They're both guilty. They're both responsible. They've both done as much to damage that relationship as anybody. Adam got control of Newman Enterprises because he wanted to one-up Victor. That's why he was colluding with Jack on numerous occasions throughout the past, 5 years that he's come back into Genoa City. And as for Victor not being there for Adam as a child, which was a stone Chelsea was throwing at Victor, Hope made the decision to keep Victor away from Adam. And maybe you're gonna say, yes, if I would never let anyone keep me away from my son, but Hope insisted on it. Hope had a very bad experience in Genoa City. She did not fit into Victor's world. She did not want their child to be raised around it, and Victor respected her wishes. So it wasn't just that Victor abandoned Adam. Hope did not want him there. So as much as I love Adam, it's not all that he's some saint. And when he came back into Genoa City, after he had found out that Victor was his father, Adam laid down the line. Adam shot first. Adam struck first. I will always contend this. In the feud between Victor and Adam, Victor tried to let Adam into his life, and Adam was the one who wanted revenge first. Victor gave preference to Adam over his other kids letting him into Newman Enterprises, and Adam wasn't happy. Adam had to just get in there and cause trouble. So, yes, Victor should have been the parent. He should have been the bigger man. But let's not pretend that Adam is an innocent here. So that argument really ticked me off. I think that Victor was very patient with Chelsea. I think he should have, I don't know, I wanted to just smack her across the room, but he was just like, you know, you can say whatever you want about me, but don't you ever say anything about my family, or I'll put you onto a slow boat to nowhere. Please, Victor, put Chelsea onto a slow boat to nowhere. I beg of you. Oh well. So Adam gets out of surgery, and the doctor says that only one person can visit him. And of course, it's the Victor versus Chelsea feud just continues to boil. She says, "I'm his wife." Victor says, "I'm his father." So I don't know. I don't know who ultimately would have won over in that debate, but Chelsea kind of set the volley back to Sharon. I mean, I think appreciated that Sharon called her, and she actually said, you know, I think the only one who really deserves to be with Adam right now is Sharon. She's the one that stood by him through everything, and she deserves to be there with him. I liked that Chelsea did that. That was very selfless of her, and actually a rare, nice moment from her. I can't believe that Victor backed down on that. I would have expected that he would have gone toe-to-toe with Sharon, turned around. But anyway, Sharon has been there for Adam, and she is there for him in good and there for him in bad, and she goes into his room, and it's very difficult for her to see this man who's always kind of been with it, always kind of been in control, lying there helpless, and she's, you know, saying it's Sharon, and she's kind of trying to talk to him, and she's touching his hand, and he starts to move his finger, and little by little he starts to wake up and come to, and of course she's ecstatic about this, and she tries to explain to him what happened, that, you know, he was at the ranch at the wedding, and, you know, he took a bullet, but, you know, everything's fine. And as soon as Adam starts to try to talk, he's asking about Victor. He wants to know if his father survived, if he, you know, was able to save his life. And Sharon said yes, Victor's fine. And it was weird because it kind of turned into this another weird bashing of Victor situation where Sharon is saying, you know, yes, you saved Victor's life, but he'll never appreciate it. No one in the family will ever appreciate it. I do think it was wrong that Nick and Victoria were not at the hospital. They should have been there. Victor told them not to be there, but I just think that they should have been, for crying out loud. So show some solidarity. If anyone has really treated Adam poorly, it's been his brother and his sister. But it was weird that as Adam's kind of lying there on his deathbed-ish, that she's talking about how no one appreciates him and how Victor is, you know, doesn't appreciate him. And I'm like, well, why she failed to mention that Victor was at the hospital up until, what, a few minutes ago? I think Victor ended up leaving and going home to take care of Nikki or something, but he was there, but she didn't tell Adam that. Why didn't she tell him that? It's not as if Victor was like, oh yeah, thanks for saving my life, and then he went home and had a pizza or something. I mean, he was there, and I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, the story is not Victor bad, Adam good. That's not it. It's so much more complicated. That's why I love this storyline, is because there's many, many facets to it. That's what makes it cool. But Adam, barely lucid, wants to talk business, just out of surgery, wants to talk business with Sharon, and he asks Sharon to take over running Newman Enterprises. and then he slips into a coma. He was having flashbacks of the shooting, and maybe that just kind of became too much for him, or I think he started getting a blood clot at that point, and so he slips into a coma. His last wishes were that Sharon would run Newman Enterprises, which can somebody please explain to me how Adam owns Newman Enterprises? Jack owns Newman Enterprises, and I thought that he just kind of let Adam run it. But is Jack, who owns it? Doesn't Jack still own his 51% of stock, and then he just kind of let Adam run it? So wouldn't it really be Jack's decision as to who runs Newman Enterprises? I don't feel like Adam owns it. I missed that or something. That has never really made sense to me. So if anybody can clarify that, I would love it, because it's racking my brain a little bit. But if Sharon does decide to take over Newman Enterprises, Victor's not going to be happy about it. And who could blame him? Sharon's the one that ran that company into the ground. So you can look for those two to go head-to-head over Newman Enterprises next week. We'll see how that pans out. But now, while Adam was unconscious, Chelsea gets a conscience. And she decides that she's going to tell Adam that he's the father of her baby. She thinks, what if he died and he never knew, and yada yada. So she actually does the right thing. And as he's lying there out of it, she tells him. Now, we don't know if Adam heard it or not. Sometimes people in a coma can understand what's going on around them, but she does tell him that he's going to be a father, and it was a very sad moment. I'm glad that she did finally tell the truth. Problem is, just as Chelsea's telling him this, camera pans over to the door. Victoria's face is looking in, and she overhears and realizes that Chelsea's pregnant with Adam's baby again, and realizes the entire situation. So once again, Chelsea has exactly what Victoria wants. I felt bad for Victoria in that just brief little moment, because Chelsea is like Genoa City's baby dispensary. She's been on the show for, what, about a year? And she's been pregnant 3 times, while Victoria struggles to get pregnant even once. And this whole near-death experience at the ranch and seeing Billy as the hero, having him save the day, has really re-sparked her interest in having children. And her and Billy this week did decide that they want to start trying to have a baby again. I'm worried about Billy and Victoria, though, because she has trouble conceiving, and now they're going to be going through in vitro and all that mess, which is physically difficult. It is stressful on a relationship. I know couples that have broken up just trying to go through the in vitro thing. It takes any kind of pleasure out of sex. It makes it this chore, and it can be painful and just emotionally wrecking. So Victoria's got stars in her eyes about having a baby now, but it could just as easily be something new to tear them apart. More character profiles this week. We got 5 new character profiles at the beginning of this week's shows. I love them so much. They're so wonderful. I love how they transition perfectly into the credits. I cry every single one. I don't think I've watched one where I haven't cried. They've all been so wonderful. And I really enjoyed watching Sharon Case's profile, because Sharon came onto the show right around the same time that I started watching the show. And I think I watched before that, but I remember her being so young and watching her relationship with Nick Budd. And just Sharon is someone who we've really watched grow up on screen. Looking back at those early scenes of her very fresh-faced and innocent, and looking at her now into the woman that she's become, it's crazy. She was playing this young college-age woman when she came on, and now we've seen her go through it all. I feel like Sharon Case strikes me as a really sweet person. I thought she held herself in the interview really well. She seems like somebody who you'd want to know. Just a real gem, a real peach. I really liked her, and oh my gosh, her character has taken so many twists and turns, and she has withstood them all. I don't think that the actress has ever left the show. She's been on the show pretty consistently over the past I mean, I don't know, how long has it been? It has to be 15 at least years. So you gotta hand it to that girl. She has stuck with it, even though she's had a cornucopia of crazy storylines. I mean, from her incredible courtship and loving marriage with Nick to her failed relationship with Nick that lasted for 10 years. They were not always a happy couple, but they were married for 10 years, and then they experienced the death of their daughter, which Sharon Case said is even really hard for her to watch today. It is still hard for me to watch today. The death of Cassie, it changed Nick and Sharon's relationship forever, and that's what Sharon Case said, and even went as far to say what I've said, it changed many storylines on the show forever. That was one of probably the most pivotal moments that I can remember in the show, and I don't know, it's so interesting. Like, the Nick and Sharon's failed relationship gave way to Nick and Phyllis's affair, and everything, it all spiraled out from there. But Sharon falling in love, well, she went through a couple of different guys after Nick, but nothing really clicked until she found Adam, and she fell in love with him, and I love Sharon and Adam. They had this weird understanding of one another, and then she got involved in the weird Schichter relationship, and she went through the whole depression bipolar thing, and Sharon Case talked about all of that, and even kind of just talked a little bit about where the character is today and where she's going in the future, kind of getting out of the depression and really discovering who she is and what her goals are. That's a Sharon that I'm looking forward to seeing. There was also a character profile of Billy, and it was mostly funny. Billy Miller is a funny guy. It made me appreciate him a little bit more, because Billy has been on my list of unhappiness for the last couple of years. So or maybe the last year, I don't know. But it was nice to actually hear him talk about the character. I forgot that Billy was involved with Chloe. I mean, I know they have Delia together, but I got the impression that they had kind of hot, sexy times in New York City before she came on, and then she comes to Genoa City, didn't know, he was kind of using that alias Liam or whatever. But they showed some scenes where it seemed like Billy and Chloe were kind of happy together. I mean, they got married, and I think that, he really wanted to be with Mac at the time, but he seemed kind of happy with Chloe for at least a little bit, and I had forgotten that. It's just so easy to forget that. But I mean, probably because Billy has had so many affairs. The most fun and hilarious part of his profile was where he tried to list all of the women that he has slept with. Chloe, Chelsea, Sharon, scandalous, Heather, and Victoria, and he even said something about there was some random person in a loading dock, which I don't remember, but that's still really funny. The affair with Sharon caused a lot of ripples in his relationship with Jack, and they've had a lot of ups and downs. I think Jack wants to be a good brother, but he always falls short. But Jack, at the end of the day, has always been there for Billy, and Billy knows that. And they talked about his relationship with Jill. We need to see Jill's profile. That's got to be coming soon, right? I would think. But, Billy has always played the "you sent me off to boarding school, you never loved me" thing with Jill when times got rough. So Jill and Billy have a pretty steady relationship right now, but it has not always been like that. And I loved him talking about Katherine and about Jeanne Cooper and saying, if you ask her something, she will give you an opinion. That's just what I would imagine that she would be like, so that was really fun. And, he talked about Billy's relationship with Victoria and the fact that he was so low down in the gutter when Victoria found him, and that in so many ways Victoria sort of validates him, that Victoria is what makes him more of a man. She forces him to try harder, to bring himself up to another level, and as much as he can, considering the fact that her father hates him. So he talked about the feud with Victor, of course, classic. His feud with Kane, and it's just, you know, it was good to look back on his character because there's a lot of things that I forget, but I think it renewed a little bit of interest for Billy for me. It's hard to believe that he's only been on the show for the past 5 years because it kind of seems like longer. Now the question on everyone's mind is, who would want to kill Victor Newman? I can't even believe that anyone would need to ask that question. Probably only about 100 people. Who doesn't want to kill Victor Newman? Why don't you make a list of the people who probably don't want to kill Victor Newman, because that would be shorter. It might be easier to get the process of elimination from that. So Paul and Alex are on this case, and just a side note, Paul's office as the Genoa City's new chief of police is so nice. It's so much better than the horrible, dingy Genoa City police station that we've seen so much of. I wonder if they recycled Michael's office to make Paul's office, but I like it. I really like seeing Paul. I'm glad that he's got a permanent place. He deserves that, for crying out loud. So Paul and Alex are putting their heads together, and they're really close to figuring it out. Congressman Wheeler makes the mistake of coming into the police station, into Paul's office, and asking him about the case, saying, "Oh, I'm really close with Victor, and I'm just wondering if you have any suspects yet." He's just trying to sniff around and find out if they have figured out that he's the one that's behind it yet, and all he ended up doing was tipping them off. So, well done, Congressman Wheeler, you mad genius. But they ended up setting him down and questioning him and really drilling in on him. Alex is hilarious, by the way. He is just making these little offhand comments the entire time. He does have cop attitude. He is just a sweet, it's like he's obnoxious in a sweet little puppy dog kind of way. Like he's yip, 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 but you just want to give him a big old smooch and squeeze his ass. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But they think that Congressman Wheeler's acting suspicious, which of course he is, and they have his goon, the guy that shot Victor, in custody, and he's kind of talking about a lot of random things, but anytime they bring up Congressman Wheeler, he's real tight-lipped. So they're able to piece together that Congressman Wheeler has something to do with it, and Paul has a hunch that they just need to start looking into Congressman Wheeler's life and maybe something will pop up. Well, Alex makes the connection between Congressman Wheeler and Stephanie. He found a photo on the internet, and then he made the connection between Stephanie and Jack because he was at the athletic club on New Year's when Stephanie was trying to proposition guys, apparently, and he saw her leave with Jack that night. So you can pretty much make darn sure that Jack is going to be questioned by Paul and Alex next week, and I'll be completely surprised if Jack doesn't fold like a lawn chair. Doug Davison looked really dapper in his profile interview. He had on a cream-colored jacket and a little blue scarf in the pocket. He looked good, and he has glasses on. I really like Paul. And it was so cool to take that trip down memory lane to see Paul when he first came on the show. He had awesome 70s hair. It was so cool, like kind of David Cassidy-ish, kind of got the feather a little bit on the side. So it was a trip, you guys, and seeing him with Nikki, and oh, it was so weird because I guess I didn't realize. I know a lot about Y&R just kind of from reading history and wikis and whatnot, but I wasn't watching when Paul came onto the show, and I guess Paul was kind of using Nikki for sex at the beginning, which I did not know at all. That's almost hard to believe of the Paul we know today. He's mellowed out quite a bit. Speaking of hair, OMG Lauren. Oh! Did you guys see the flashback scene between Paul and Lauren? Her hair was incredible. It was like 80s woman, I think it had to been it had to been like the 80s by that point, what that flashback was. She had like the female version of the mullet, and it was feathered back and hairsprayed, and her face was all painted up like a canvas. It was incredible. I mean, that was some funky, chunky look for Lauren Fenmore. I loved it so much. But I think the part of the whole profile that I loved the most was the centerfold. Now, I have only known about Paul's nude photos through lore. You know, just from reading stuff. I vaguely knew that Paul had posed nude, but Doug Davison had the original the original photo. Like he even folded out the centerfold, and first he's like laying on his side and you can see like his chest and everything, and as he unfolds it, I'm like, oh no, he's gonna be wearing shorts or something, right? Like this is gonna be a trick. Oh no, he unfolded it and Paul's like had his hand over where his crotch would be, and there was some shadowing, but he was definitely nude. It was just, it's like almost hard to think of Paul as a playboy. I don't remember why he did that though. It, I think, caused some trouble between him and Lauren as they were married at the time, but if anybody can give me some more information on why Paul was posing nude, other than just to get out that exhibitionism, you have to leave me a comment and let me know. I wonder if it was his relationship with Chris that really kind of calmed him down, because Chris is a real stiff girl. I mean, she always kind of has been. I wonder if they'll do a profile on her. But you know, they talked a little bit about, you know, him saving Christine from Michael, and woo! The scene where Paul had to shoot Michael in the ass because he has tunneled through into Christine's apartment and he was about ready to rape her. Oh my goodness. Oh, Christian LeBlanc. We'll talk about that later, but boy, he was creepy. You know, the thing that I felt like was missing a little bit was the triangle between Paul and Chris and Danny. They didn't mention a whole lot of that, and it was a large part, a large chunk of like Paul in the 90s. That was a big storyline, a big triangle, and they didn't talk about it very much, but they did touch on his relationship with Ava Longoria, or I'm sorry, Isabella, famously played by Ava Longoria. That's probably why, because YNR's probably really proud that she went on to be a super duper star, but she was on YNR first. So they did talk about that. They showed the scene of Isabella trying to kill Christine so that she could have Paul all to herself, and they replayed the scene of Paul killing his own son. I mean, he was like spitting, foaming at the mouth as he's like, drop the knife! Oh gosh, and I had to shoot him and he fell out the window and died. Ugh, I miss Ricky. I really still miss Ricky to this day. I need to get over it. He's never coming back. Unfortunately. Maybe someday. No, maybe someday. I don't know. I thought that was Paul at his best, though. I really thought that Paul brought it to a whole nother level of intensity with having to shoot his son, and it was just such a joy to hear Doug Davison talk about that, too. They kind of touched briefly on Patty and his relationship with her, but they didn't show any shots of the original actress. I don't know why, but even Doug Davison had talked about how it was interesting to work with someone who was different from, you know, the original character. But it's, you know, it's easy to forget all that his character has been through because he's not used as much these days, but I think that character profile was one of my favorites because it was taking us all the way back to almost the beginning. Jack was really ticked off when he found out about what happened at the ranch at Victor's wedding and that Adam was shot because, well, for one thing, Jack and Adam have developed quite a rapport. Adam has saved Jack's ass with the Stephanie situation. He disposed of a body for him, for crying out loud. So Jack sees this as just another way that Victor has screwed up. And so Jack goes to the ranch and confronts Victor, and he says, you have set something into motion that caused another innocent person to get in the way, and you could tell that where Jack was coming from is the fact that Victor did something similar and Colleen ended up paying the ultimate price. And Jack is right. Victor sets things into motion, innocent people get in the way, and Victor always comes out unscathed. So please don't think that I am blind to all of Victor's nonsense, although Victor was not happy with that confrontation. I mean, he said something like, how would you feel if Kyle was in the hospital right now? You know, my son is lying in a hospital bed, and obviously he feels terrible about it, but he didn't miss the opportunity to throw it back to Jack and say, hey, this is as much your fault as anyone, which I guess kind of true, but still not. Victor still started it. Victor brought Stephanie in to, you know, get with Jack. Jack did have a drug problem, did, you know, not notice that she died on his living room floor, and so it did end up ticking off the congressman. But, you know, really, who you can play the game of blame all day with this show. The more important thing is that Jack and Victor both agree that Congressman Wheeler was the one who was behind all of it, and accept that they're kind of going to have to team up in order to get this guy. So Victor calls the congressman over to the ranch, and the congressman's acting all like, oh, I have no idea what it is. Of course, he denies it, and then Jack comes out of the woodwork, and they both sort of team up on him and try to get the congressman to confess, and the congressman is just acting so offended that he could possibly think that he had anything to do with this. As if the congressman hasn't been making direct threats to Victor this entire time. Well, that little, oh, I spilled coffee on my breasts thing that Summer tried to pull blew up in her face all over the place. Phyllis walked in as Summer is trying to be all dainty and brothel, and oh, my boobs are out, and oh, do you see these? Oh, did I burn my chest? Yeah, Phyllis walks in, is not having it. Right away, she breaks that up. She covers up Summer so that Kyle can't see anything, and then she practically grabbed Kyle by his ear and took him out into the hall and ripped him a new one. It was not his fault. Come on. Summer is Phyllis Newman's child. She operates just exactly like her. It's not Kyle's fault. Summer's trying to get what she wants. And I think Phyllis realized that as the situation unfolded a little bit. Obviously, Summer is the aggressor here. So Phyllis goes back into Jack's office where Summer's alone, and she tries to talk to her. She wants to talk her out of this crush, and she wants to make Summer understand that sex is not just something to be thrown around, which is so ironic coming out of Phyllis's mouth. But Phyllis tries to tell Summer, kind of, do as I say, not as I do. I don't want you to follow the same path that I followed. Your first time should be special. It should be with someone special. And it seemed a little bit like Summer was listening, but then not really. Summer wants what she wants. She's got her tunnel vision, and Phyllis decides that she cannot have it, so she's going to have to cancel her trip with Jack, which is sad. I was hoping they were going to go on a fun trip, and we were going to get to see it and connect with them in their relationship, and Summer had to ruin it. For crying out loud, Summer has to ruin Phyllis and Jack's fun time. Ben has to ruin Michael and Lauren's relationship. These kids are just getting in the way of the couples. But furthermore, Phyllis realizes that she needs to separate Kyle and Summer, and this is something that she can control. She may not be able to control the feelings, but she can sure as heck try to transfer Summer over to the fashion division of Chabot, where Kyle is not. We'll see how that goes over, because if I've learned anything from watching this show, trying to keep someone from who or what they want only makes them want it more. Katherine needs a damn day planner is what she needs. She's forgetting appointments all over the place. She forgot that she got a lunch meeting with Kane, and so she tries to make up some excuse, goes to meet Kane for lunch, and he catches her slipping. She slips in and out of consciousness. She slips in, or not consciousness, but she slips in and out of linear thought. At one point she thinks it's the future, at one point she thinks it's the past, and it becomes really obvious, and Kane kind of tricked her a little bit and said something like, I really appreciate your consulting me on the Chabot fashion thing, and she was like, oh, well, yeah. She's trying to play it off like, oh yeah, you're welcome, and he says, you didn't consult me on the Chabot fashion thing, so what's really going on? And he did really good. He kind of forced her to open up She couldn't back her way out of it anymore, and she finally told him that she kind of knows what's wrong with her. She believes that she has Alzheimer's disease, and I have to say, Kane was so patient with her. He listened and just was really empathetic. I wanted to scream at her to get her bony butt to the doctor now. She doesn't know that she has Alzheimer's. It could be something else. And Kane took the same position, but he was really calm about it. He ended up convincing her that she really needs to talk to somebody, and he actually drove her to the hospital. Now, this forces me to bring up a point. Where is Murphy? Where the hell is Murphy? Are we just supposed to forget that Katherine is married, Y&R? I know that it seems like Jeanne, is it Jeanne or Jeanne? I have no clue. Some people, I think they call her Jeanne. I'm just gonna start calling her Jeanne. But she doesn't like Murphy. I don't know if she doesn't like the actor, if she doesn't like the storyline, but she's not having it, and I think that's why Murphy has been seriously sidelined. But they need to do something with that. If they have to kill Murphy, I'm gonna cry my eyes out, but we need some resolution around that relationship, because Murphy should be the one who's there with her, and it doesn't make sense that he's not. Okay, sidetrack. Now, back to the main thing. Kane takes her to the hospital and then leaves her, kind of lets her talk to the doctor privately. I was afraid she was going to get up and run out of the room, though, because clearly she doesn't want to be there. But Kane respects her and lets her do her own thing. By the way, he tells Katherine, I'm going to have to tell Lily about all of this. I'm sorry, but we tell each other everything. I can't keep secrets from her. We'll talk about that later. So, Katherine's having trouble even remembering who the president is. She's sitting there waiting for the doctor to come in, and she's just struggling to even know what year it is, I think. And I just hope that it's not Alzheimer's, because I don't think there's a cure for that. Talk about taking it all the way back to the beginning. Jeanne Cooper's profile was taking it all the way back to the beginning. It was, oh my god, I cried, of course. But it was so wonderful to see young Katherine, and oh my goodness, they talked about, just a little bit, she talked about her relationship with Philip, which at this point is sort of the secondary street to the feud that was born out of the relationship with Philip, her feud with Jill. They fought over the same man, and it gave birth to legendary arguments between those two. And they showed a little montage of all of the fight scenes between Jill and Katherine, and I remembered most of them. I was pretty proud of that. I think my favorite ones were where they were fighting in the attic, and Katherine knocks Jill over, and she sees a rat, and she's horrified. But the one I always remember, when they were standing in the Chancellor living room, and Katherine just hit Jill over the head with a vase. I mean, that's pretty harsh. She could have really done some damage to her there, but that was a pretty classic one to me. And then I remember too, when they were on the balcony, and I think Katherine like stepped on Jill's toe, or if it was the other way around, I can't remember, but they were on a balcony. It was kind of nerve-wracking at the time, like, are they gonna fall off? I think that was around the time that they were fighting about Mackenzie coming onto the scene. But there's so many classic fights. You'll have to leave me a comment and let me know what your favorite Katherine and Jill fight scene was. How could you even pick? My goodness. But, you know, there were her friendships too. Jeanne talked about Victor, and how Victor is always the champion. You know, he's always the one who's there for her no matter what. But I think probably more importantly, Nikki as the daughter figure. Even when Jill clearly was not there for Katherine, Tucker was not there for Katherine, Nikki has always been there for Katherine. It's a weird mother-daughter slash best friend sort of relationship. I wish that Katherine was opening up to Nikki right now about what's happening with the Alzheimer's, but Nikki's got her own problems. But I think Nikki would want to know, and that she would be able to help her through this. They've gone through a lot together. She talked a lot about when she was playing the double roles. There were times where she was playing Marge, she was playing Katherine, she was playing Marge playing Katherine. It was probably very confusing, I would think. I didn't love that. I didn't love that storyline. I don't know why. I didn't see the original Marge. I saw they brought Marge back, oh boy, a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago? I don't know, maybe more. No, it had to have been, well, she met Murphy through Marge, didn't she? So it couldn't have been that long ago, but I didn't love it. I don't usually like when people are playing double roles. That's just my personal preference, because I like when the show is really, really based in reality. I don't like to see too much far out stuff, and the double roles thing is a little bit hokey to me, but hey, Jeanne Cooper, whatever, I'm sorry, I wish I knew. She did a phenomenal job, and she just seems like a really classy lady and really appreciative of the fans, really. She said something that really struck me, that, you know, she's spent a lifetime with YNR, but she also realizes that there are a lot of people who have spent it right along with her. Esther. Okay. If we can't get rid of the maid's uniform, can we at least get rid of the ridiculous headpiece? It's so hokey. I wish Katherine could we're over the French maid thing. Let's bring this up to date. If she has to wear a uniform, fine. But the French maid thing is so over. It really distracts from me liking Esther. Whenever she's on screen in that uniform, that's all I see. I'm sorry, but I don't like it. Now, Esther was pilly-paddling around in the Chancellor living room as Chloe is on the phone, and Esther's kind of overhearing Chloe on the phone, and she's talking to Kevin about how they're broke. They can't live in their house. They used the money to get their house back, but now they don't have any money to get the power turned back on, which it must be some kind of wicked electric bill if they can't afford it. I mean, how big can it be? You can't borrow a couple bucks from Chelsea or Michael or something just to get the power back on? I don't know. When did they become all prideful? Like, Kevin's always begging for money from Gloria or Michael or somebody. Somebody's got to be. I mean, even if it's $1,000 electric bill, you can borrow that from somebody. Borrowing it from Katherine would sure as heck be better than stealing it from her. So, apparently, Katherine is donating some things to charity. Esther is going around the house, putting Fabergé eggs into box, and, you know, it's $1,000 egg that Katherine is donating, and as Esther is getting it ready to go to the charity or whatever, and Chloe sees what this is happening, and she's actually thinking about stealing from Katherine, similarly to how Kevin was thinking about stealing from Katherine a couple of weeks ago. She's looking like she's about ready to do something shady, and a couple minutes later she shows up at Crimson Lights with the box of things that Esther was going to donate. So my question to you guys is, did Esther plant that box there to test her daughter? I'm wondering, because Esther kind of overheard what was going on, and then she thinks she's not going to notice that the box of valuables is magically missing. So something's up. I think that stealing from Katherine, who's been nothing but so kind to both of them, just shows how absolutely desperate they are. Stealing from friends? How low can you go? I've got a really bad feeling, you guys, that that the coffee house is going to get torched for insurance money soon. Leslie has made a very quick turnaround. She has gone from resenting her father, being afraid of him for her life, and now she is testifying on his behalf to try to get him released from prison. And probably more significantly, she's calling him a dad. It was all very Gus. She called him Gus every time she needed to refer to him for the past month, and now all of a sudden it's Dad. So Leslie has made a complete turnaround. Tyler has not. Tyler did try to go visit his dad, and he tried to see what Leslie saw, but it wasn't in him. And the day of the trial arrives. Leslie's there to testify on his behalf. Tyler shows up to testify for the prosecution. And it's really unfortunate how I mean, maybe Tyler's right. Maybe his dad is lying. We don't know that yet. We could be all getting the wool pulled over our eyes. It wouldn't be the first time Avery made a mistake about someone's innocence. Daisy, Daisy, Daisy. But at this point, Tyler is so resentful of his father, and it's sad that it's become transferred to Leslie. It's caused a huge rift between Tyler and Leslie, and I feel bad because it makes Tyler feel more alone than ever. After the trial, he goes back to Genoa City and he's trying to get some work done in the office. Of course, Lily is there. She knows that something is wrong, and he finally opens up to her that not only was his mother murdered, but the person who murdered her was his father. And she had a really interesting reaction, and it's something that I appreciate about Lily. She doesn't just take things at face value. She looked at him right away and summed him up and realized that he's he's really angry about it, and that maybe that anger is clouding his judgment. She seemed to, I don't know, take Leslie's word a little bit, even though Leslie wasn't talking to her directly. But she said, you know, if Leslie was able to see some good in him, maybe you could too. And I did appreciate that Lily could have just gone along with him, but she decided to try to help him see the other side as well. She even got him to talk about what his real name is, and he was on the verge of admitting that he might be wrong and that he might be able to forgive his father or see the other side of the story. And until Kane walks in, they are embracing and having an intimate moment. Kane bursts in the door, big surprise, and he's all, "Get your hands off my wife. She's my wife. Do you know she's married to me? Me!" I can't blame him. Who could blame Kane at this point? Lily says she's going to stay away from Tyler, and then she doesn't. And she knows that being with Tyler is making Kane uncomfortable. Kane gave up working with Chelsea for Lily, and now, no matter how innocent it may be, Lily needs to let Tyler deal with his own problems because it's just causing problems for her. Dylan is all poised to leave town. We know he ain't going nowhere. And he stops by Nick's house to give a little present to Faith, and Avery is there, and Dylan says he's leaving town and he's not coming back. So Nick kind of graciously stepped aside and allowed Avery and Dylan to have a final moment together, and it was really sad watching Dylan kind of giving up. He's lost his father, he's lost any chance he had with the woman that he loves, and meanwhile, Avery is considering marrying Nick way too soon. But, I mean, he's been divorced for a couple of months. But she's thinking about it. She caught the bouquet at the wedding, and Nick is really, really pushing for it. And yet Dylan is standing there, and he's someone that she thought was dead. She thought that he was lost, and now here he is leaving again. And you can tell that there's really still such a huge connection between them. I really like Dylan and Avery. I feel like they would make such a great couple. There is a chemistry there. There is a heat there. And it's not just because they're standing there looking longingly at each other while Y&R plays that song. It's like, I want something more than this, you know, and you just think, they do want to be together in a way. I think that if it weren't for the fact that Avery sees she's fought kind of hard to be with Nick, Nick is clearly quite a catch, but there's a burning passion between her and Dylan. And Dylan is getting ready to walk out the door. She doesn't really want him to go. She actually asked him if maybe they could still be friends. She didn't want it to be goodbye. And Dylan can't do that. The just being friends thing, does it ever really work? Especially when you've loved and lost so deeply as they have. I don't think it's possible that they could be friends. And Dylan saw that and he just said no. So they had this very tearful final goodbye. Dylan leaves, and he goes to the coffee house for a drink real quick before he finally leaves town, runs into Chelsea, gives her a little smoochy goodbye, and now he's on the road. The next thing we see from him, he is in some bar somewhere, and he's having his drink, and he's staring at his cell phone, and he's clearly lovelorn. The female bartender's befriending him. She sees that he's a sad guy. She even gives him a free drink on the house. And this loudmouth jerk starts coming up behind Dylan and hitting on the bartender. I mean, the female bartender is wearing a belly top. Like, she's got her shirt tied up so that her belly is exposed, and she's annoyed when a guy hits on her. Why would you be wearing that? And slinging drinks and expect guys not to be asking for your phone number? I thought that was a little weird, but anyway, he starts kind of being aggressive with her, and she's not having it, so Dylan asks this guy to back down, and then the guy starts, whoa, going nuts on Dylan. Just, I know your type, you're probably a soldier, aren't you? I see your haircut, and, you know, well, what do you think about this guy now? Is he your hero, or blah, blah, blah. So Dylan gets up and he gets in a fist fight with the guy because, of course, Dylan has to defend his honor. Look, Weiner, I already like Dylan. You don't have to try so hard. I get it, okay? He's a saint. He does everything right every time. It feels like Weiner is laying it on so thick. He's good with small children and the defender of women. Yes, I get it. I like it. Okay. He's a good guy. But unfortunately, he's getting arrested for his act of kindness. It was weird because meanwhile, as this is all going on with Dylan, Nick is at Avery's house getting ready to propose to her. He has created this romantic evening with flowers and all kinds of food, and it's like a fancy dinner, and then he tops it all off with an easy bake cooked cake. It's under a silver platter. She opens it up and it's a little easy bake oven cake, and she eats it and she's like, oh, it's the best thing I've ever had, and they're all smoochy, and you know that Nick is just about to pop the question when Avery's phone rings, and it's the female bartender telling her that Dylan's being arrested, and you know that Avery's gonna have to go right into his rescue because she still loves him and because she's a good lawyer. But here's my question. Dylan was looking at the bartender, calling on his phone, like, he probably only has one number in his phone, and thank goodness it was a lawyer, but he's watching the bartender call somebody in his phone. Did Dylan tell the bartender to call Avery for him? So Lauren crawls home after another night of hanky-panky with Carmine, the scummy bartender, and she's standing in the living room of the apartment that she shares with Michael in loving wedded bliss for years and years, and she's covering up a hickey on her neck. Ugh! I swear to you guys, I have been such a Lauren fan for so long, and now every time I see her on screen, I'm yelling out loud, screw you, Lauren, because that's how I feel. She is not even trying to get her act together at this point. Michael comes home. I'm surprised he didn't see the hickey. It was gigantic. But he comes home and he's tired of this crap. He suggests a therapist. He's looking for alternatives. He's looking for a bridge back to her. And going to see a therapist is a totally fair suggestion. He doesn't think that she's being completely honest with him or with herself. And she gets so offended at just the mere suggestion that she's not being upfront and honest. Well, she's not. She doesn't want to see a therapist. She doesn't want to work on it. Finally, she tries to walk out again, and Michael is like, no. I'm going to walk out on you this time. And he did. He turned around and walked out, and oh, she didn't like that. I'm glad to see it. I am tired of Michael being a doormat at this point. And by the way, Michael and Lauren have been going head to head over Fenn. Their whole relationship has been broken up over Fenn. Where the hell is Fenn? He hasn't even been seen in weeks. where's he fall on this? Is he can he not get in there and try to help bring his parents back together, considering he's what tore them apart? So later, Michael suggests to Lauren, he comes back, suggests to Lauren that maybe it's time to file some paperwork. Maybe it's time to get a legal separation. Oh, she doesn't like that idea. She doesn't want him anywhere near her, but she doesn't want to get a divorce. Oh no, she wants to have her cake and eat it too. Michael gave up his job, his entire career for you. What have you even done, Lauren, besides sleep with Carmine and betray him? Like, I think that Michael came up with the idea to do the legal separation as a wake-up call for her. Why else would he do it? I think he just wants to kind of show her that he's serious, and that if she's not going to make any kind of efforts to get their relationship back on track, then they're going to have to sever it, and I don't blame him at all. And it worked, it really did, because as soon as she realized that her marriage might actually be over and that she can't just screw around and then have a little good old time and Michael will just sit back and take it, she goes right to On the Boulevard, where Carmine is bartending there too. First of all, I hate On the Boulevard. I hate that weird wavy brown wall that's behind everything. It looks terrible. Who wants brown? Why do you want a brown background and then blue? It's just, I don't like that restaurant set. And forgive me, but can Genoa City get another bartender? Does Carmine need to bartend at the athletic club and at On the Boulevard too? Can we get a new bartender? One that's not a man-ho? Maybe? How about Noah? How about anybody else? But of course he's at the restaurant and Lauren comes up to him at the bar and tells him, you need to back off. I want to save my marriage. It's time for you to back off. Well, he should have backed off the first 3 times that she asked him to. This is not the first time she's told him that their little affair is over, and he never accepts it. He seriously looked like she broke his real heart. His face was so, so sad. Don't leave me, Lauren. This affair means something to me. I know that we haven't talked at all really that much, and it's really mostly just foreplay talk, but I love you. That's what his sad little face said. But he's so manipulative, you guys. Like, he's holding her hand like, I can't let you leave. And she's just looking at him like, you better. Like, it is over now. And he's saying to her, he's so manipulative. He's like, well, I can't just let you go without a proper goodbye. A proper goodbye to this nothing of an affair. He tells her, I just want to have one last night with you. Ugh. And he's just got this look in his eye that screams, I'm an obsessive freak. And if I can't have you, no one can have you. I'm getting that vibe from him right now. Like, even if she wants him to go away, he is not going away. I loved the character profile of Michael. It's so weird to think about how he came onto the show as a villain and he's become Genoa City's finest man. And it was a true treat to see those flashbacks of his descent into madness and how he was this brilliant attorney and he became obsessed with Chris and it just rolled around in his head until he did this crazy thing, tunneling into her apartment. Does it get any better than that, you guys? That scene of him, just the shot of his face looking demonic, creepily standing there in Chris's bedroom staring at her and getting ready to rape her. I can't believe how much I love this man considering where he came from. But the thing is, he was saved by the love of a good woman. That was Christian LeBlanc's words about his character. Meeting Lauren was kind of like in a Billy Victoria way, what made, one of the things that made Michael want to be better. And they were such an odd couple. You wouldn't expect him to fall in love with Lauren and for her to go for him. And they had this great courtship, this amazing wedding. I love Lauren and Michael. I'm so heartbroken by what's going on with them right now. But Christian LeBlanc seemed genuinely grateful for, his opportunity of being with the show. And he was so, he just talked about how Y&R ended up kind of building a family around this character. He wasn't just this one-dimensional villain, but they brought in a mother and a brother, and that sort of transitioned into a mini profile of Kevin, and how Kevin was the same thing. He was a villain when he came onto the show. Now Chloe's got his balls in her handbag, but at first he was like a pyromaniac, and he was just a creepy bad villain character. And we saw him he burnt down Gina's restaurant, I believe. He tried to kill Colleen. He went to jail, and like guys were beating him up, and they talked about his being locked in the closet thing. So it was nice to see that recognition of that deep relationship with Kevin and Michael's feelings of having abandoned his brother, and he's always kind of had guilt for that. So it did a lot of good explaining. Christian LeBlanc talked even about Michael's the latest developments in his life, and how this affair is happening, and how a couple that have been together for so long is now suddenly being torn apart. And it was really cool to get Christian LeBlanc's perspective on, as an actor, like how do I make the audience understand where Michael is coming from? And I just thought that was brilliant to get his insight onto, what it's like acting this character. It was really cool. Okay, you guys, that is gonna do it for me for this week. My throat is all sore from all of the talking. All of the drama has made my throat sore. So I'm gonna let you guys go, but you can pick up where I left off by leaving me a comment on this video. Please feel free. A lot happened this week, and it's okay to go ahead and use that comment box and tell me anything that you want to tell me. I'm looking forward to it. So happy Easter, everybody. I love you, and I'll see you next Sunday.